Hello everyone and welcome to a crazy game from day 3 of the Superbet Poland Rapid Tournament where pretty much anything can happen. The positions you will see here are out of this world. It is WEI YI versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Two incredible players who are playing incredible chess, incredible attacking chess, incredible tactical chess. So yeah, I'm sure you guys are aware that you are in for a treat. So let's check it out. WEI YI with white opens with pawn to e4. And WEI YI is leading the tournament. So far he only lost to Magnus Carlsen on the first day. We have pawn to e5 and bishop to c4. WEI YI starts with the bishop opening. But okay, Nodirbek not impressed. He of course has something ready for that. He doesn't even waste time. d3, we have knight to c6 and knight to c3. Knight to e5 goes after the light square bishop right away. Queen to f3 and knight captures on c4. We have d captures and pawn to d6. Both players playing without wasting time at all. Both are still over 25 minutes and you start with 25 minutes. Knight g to e2. We have bishop to e7 and pawn to h3. We have castles and okay. Here we reach sort of a new territory. Castles is a known move. b3 is a known move. Pawn to g4 is a known move. But here we have knight to g3 by WEI YI. And it is now as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So okay, pawn to c6. Of course, WEI YI has a very strong grip on the center here. And you want to play pawn to d5 to bust open the center. We have castles. Bishop to e6, further preparing pawn to d5. And b3. And now, while you probably can throw in a pawn to d5 now. Nodirbek wants to further prepare it. We have queen to d7, also puts pressure on the h3 pawn, might be relevant in some lines, and pawn to a4. We have rook 8 to d8, and now rook to d1. So, okay, chances are you're not playing d5 with the queen staring at the rook on d1, so queen to c8, and just bishop to e3. Puts pressure on the a7 pawn, a6, and pawn to a5. So for the moment, WEI YI still has a firm grip on d5, and he has a firm grip on b6. So he's controlling the queen side, he's controlling the center. The only, real opportunity for Nodirbek is to strike on the king side with pawn to f5. And it does make sense, the rook is in front of the king, f5 would come very nicely here. So that's why knight to e8 and the bishop to b6. Grabbing more space, putting pressure on the rook. We have rook to d7 and rook to d3. We have pawn to g6, preparing f5, and now WEI YI does not wait for f5 to land, rather he lands a knight on f5. And how do you react to this move? Well, you could capture with the bishop or you could capture with the pawn, but or you really should capture. If you just wait, then WEI YI just continues piling up on your position. So here g captures on f5, bishop captures is pretty much the same. G captures on f5, E captures, and now Nodirbek plays king to h8. Now, the way you want to play this is bishop captures on f5, really, and then after queen captures on f5, knight g7, you attack the queen, rook pins the knight, king moves, and you sacrifice the rook, or rather the exchange, king captures, and now rook to d1, with some very nice chances for both sides here. Now, the rook, of course, wants to join the attack, and maybe you can bring the knight to e4, or maybe the bishop comes to d4 at some point. So all of these are possibilities. It's an equal position, but a very sharp one. However, Nodirbek avoids that. He plays king to h8. We have f captures on e6. F captures on e6, opens up an attack towards the white queen, and now queen to e2. We have knight to g7, and now rook 8 to d1. Again, keeping an eye on that d5 square. Queen to e8, preparing to shift the queen over to the king side, and now knight to e4, putting more pressure to that d6 pawn. So pawn to d5. Yes, knight to e4 allows pawn to d5. We have knight to c5 attacking the rook, and bishop captures on c5. We have bishop captures on c5, and rook to f5. You do not want to allow queen captures on f5. If this diagonal opens up, that's game over for Nodirbek. And now rook to e3. A slight improvement would have been to capture on d5 first, but players are already somewhat low on time. 5 minutes for WEI YI, almost 9 minutes for Nodirbek. We have pawn to e4. This pawn will no longer be a weakness. However, you have opened up this diagonal. Not that one, obviously this one. So pawn to f3, busting open the center, d captures on c4. We have rook captures on d7, queen captures, and now pawn to b4, the top move in any position. E captures on f3, and now rook captures on f3, and pawn to e5. Now the queen defends the rook, and you have a nicely defended passed pawn on e5. Rook back to e3, going after the pawn, and queen to d5, defending the pawn. We have pawn to g4, chasing away the rook, rook to g5, and now bishop to e7, further harassing the rook to g6, and now the rook had to move away from the defense of the e5 pawn. Rook captures on e5. So Wei Yi won this very nice pawn, and now it's a question of where is Nodirbek's counterplay. The material is equal, but a bit easier to play for Wei Yi. Queen to d4 with check. We have king to h1, and now pawn to h6, freeing up a light square for the black king, as of course Wei Yi has a dark square bishop to attack with. Bishop to c5. Attacks the queen. Queen has to move. We have queen to d7, and now queen captures on c4. Of course, Wei Yi is not interested in a pawn. He just wants to free up the d4 square for his bishop and then go after the black king. Rook to f6. If you go after the king with queen to d1 check, it doesn't really do anything. You just move the king, and after another check, you can block. And then, of course, the black queen needs to go back. Even if queen to f4 is not even a possibility. There's no good way to continue here. So instead, rook to f6 was played, and the bishop to d4, nicely aligning the bishop here with the black king, amongst other pieces. King to h7, unpinning prematurely, and now queen to d3 check. King to g8, a repetition for a couple of moves. Queen to d3 check, king to g8, but now Wei Yi says, okay, now let's continue. He was using the repetition to gain more time on the clock, because you gain 10 seconds after you play another move, so, you know, he did gain some... maybe even a full minute with this, you know, if you consider both of their times. So rook to d6, and now queen to c4 check, unpinning nicely here, and now knight to e6, goes after the bishop here, so c3. We have rook to d5. It seems like a great idea to capture the bishop here, but it's really not, because, the knight is a very nice piece, and you already got your king off of this diagonal. So if you just captured here, it would be very strong. But for the moment, the king is on the same diagonal, so rook to d5, blocking this, and now king to g2. We have pawn to h5, going after the white king, queen to e2, putting pressure on the knight on e6. We have knight captures on d4, c captures, and rook captures on d4. Rook captures on d4, and queen captures on d4. And this is what I meant with the title here. Wei Yi played his next move with 1 minute on the clock. Now, the position is objectively winning, but this is a queen and pawn endgame. This is difficult even in a classical game. So you should play queen to e8 check or queen to e6 check. But he played g captures on h5. I mean, a pawn is a pawn. And now, well, it's still winning. Nodirbek could pose some problems for him with a move like pawn to c5 or queen to d5 check. But Nodirbek just played queen captures on b4, and now the position is completely winning for Wei Yi, but there is only one move that wins. I'm pretty sure you guys see it even without pausing the video. Just in case, feel free to pause and win the game for Wei Yi while I give you a couple of seconds. Of course, the move is queen to g4 check. This forces a queen trade, and now, of course, you see that the king and pawn endgame is completely winning for Wei Yi. Of course, you have to trade, otherwise you lose the queen, so queen captures, pawn captures, you even get to undouble your pawns. And now, yes, the material is equal, 3 pawns each, however, the A pawn controls the A and B pawn, so it's like you're up a pawn. So king to f7, pawn to g5, and he was in this position on move 52 that Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned the game, and another victory for Wei Yi. That's 4 in a row against a most impressive opponent. And yeah, here he resigned because, well, whatever you play, I mean, you can push the passed pawn because you don't have b6. There's really nothing like g6, king f6, king f3. You can't push the pawn. The king is well within the square of the pawn. You can't go after this pawn because this pawn marches forward. So, of course, everything is winning for Wei Yi here. And to make things even more interesting, while I was recording this, Wei Yi already won another game. Yes, I will now just briefly show it. I'm not going to analyze it, just to show you the critical position in question. So here is Wei Yi's position against GUKESH. GUKESH had white here, and queen to c7 was played. So, of course, you want to go to queen to c4. So b4 was played, and now queen to c4. Again, going after the b4 pawn, rook to b1, defends the pawn, and now rook to c8. Now Wei Yi wants to land with the queen on c2 to put pressure on that f2 pawn or force a queen trade, and you can't really oppose it as the bishop is covering the c1 square. So here we have queen rook to e2, stopping queen c2, but now queen d4, either forcing a queen trade, or if GUKESH moves, then you go rook to c4 and you just start collecting material. So GUKESH was forced to trade here, and now pawn to g3, pawn to d3, attacking the rook. Also, you cannot really use the dark squares here. So rook e to e1, and now rook to f5. Goes after the d5 pawn. Pawn to f4, blocking the bishop, but now just rook captures on d5. And now Wei Yi has this defended pawn on d3, and his position is completely winning regardless of what GUKESH plays. Rook to c1 was played, but now rook to c2. Here, knight to f2 was played. Capturing doesn't really help you. G5, and after rook to e1, pawn to d2 was played, and he was in this position on move 30 that GUKESH resigned the game, and yet another victory for Wei Yi. That's 5 in a row, and he is leading the tournament. This was the penultimate round, so there is one more round, but he's leading the tournament 1 full point ahead of Magnus Carlsen. And it will be interesting if it's going to be a tie, because Magnus defeated Wei Yi in their head-to-head encounter. But we'll see if it gets to that. But yeah, I mean, there's really nothing you can do here. Whatever you try, rook e to d1, simply the df file opens up, captures, then the bishop will capture, and the pawn is much too strong. There's really no move you can try here. It's that bad of a position for white. So yeah, that's the game, or rather those were the games. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Wei Yi. I think all of the games have finished, so I will give you the standings. Yeah, so it's Wei Yi with 12, Magnus with 11, Prague with 9, so yeah, still in a very good position. Arjun and Kirill Shevchenko on 8, Yang Krzysztof Duda and GUKESH and Nodirbek on 7, Anish on 6, and Vincent Keimer on 5. So yeah, I mean, that's absolutely incredible stuff. One more round to go. I will keep you guys informed once it's played. But yeah, can Wei Yi take it all the way? We'll see what happens. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Someone on Twitter said that Wei Yi is like that one character in anime episodes that appears every 50 episodes that is just, completely overpowered. And yeah, he seems to be, definitely seems to be correct. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that. I would like to thank Michael Hildebrand, Johan Hoiby, Lorenzo Tessiore, Fred Ackerman, and Chess Legend for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.